Good afternoon and welcome to Facebook Live with Holy Cross Health. My name is Brenton Andrasic, Manager of Physician Alignment and Business Development at Holy Cross Health. Before we begin, I'd like to call your attention to a few ground rules that you'll see in the comments section. We encourage you to participate, but please keep any questions and comments general. We won't be discussing anyone's specific health situation in this public forum. If we can't get to every question today, we'll provide additional feedback through Holy Cross Health's blog, or we can connect with you one-on-one via phone or, of course, our website. For those of you joining us today on Facebook, we thank you for being here and for taking an active role in your health. We at Holy Cross are happy to be your partner in your health journey. We're here today to talk about diabetes and nutrition. Diabetes is a widespread problem in the United States. According to the CDC, 34.2 million Americans are living with this condition. On top of that, another 88 million have what's called prediabetes, a condition that can lead to diabetes within 5 years if not treated. And the CDC says that 8 out of 10 people who have prediabetes aren't even aware that they have this condition. So it's quite likely that you or someone you know will be impacted by our topic of discussion today. We're here with Julia Mutter, outpatient registered dietitian for Holy Cross Health, and Lucia Zagara, Faith Community Nurse Program Coordinator for the Holy Cross Health Network. The Holy Cross Health Network operates our Holy Cross Health Centers in Aspen Hill, Gaithersburg, Germantown, and Silver Spring, provides primary care at our Holy Cross Health partners at Asbury Methodist Village and in Kensington, and offers a wide range of innovative health and wellness programs to improve the health of our community. I want to begin by talking for a moment about diabetes care at Holy Cross. Holy Cross Health's Diabetes Prevention Program has earned recognition from the CDC for the delivery of high-quality, evidence-based programs to prevent or delay type 2 diabetes and improve overall health and well-being of its participants. Our program has also received recognition from the American Diabetes Association for the quality of its self-management education. Julie, I'd like to start with you. Could you just tell us a little bit more about our diabetes prevention program at Holy Cross?
Yes, I'm so grateful to be here because diabetes prevention is a passion of mine. And actually, we were able to start this program about 14 years ago at Holy Cross. We were leading in Maryland and one of the first recognized accredited programs in the state of Maryland. So our program has had 14 years of success, and it's an amazing program, free of cost to any patients that feel like they are at risk for diabetes.
And the Diabetes Prevention Program is actually one of our multiple programs that are aimed to help folks that have diabetes. We have also the Living Well Diabetes Self-Management Program, which is a program that was developed by Stanford University and an evidence-based program that lasts 6 weeks. We also have a program that is called Road to Health. The same, both of them are targeted for people that are interested in learning tools and techniques to prevent diabetes. Also, we have Diabetes Prevention Basics and Diabetes Management Basics. These two programs are new for us, and we're really excited to offer them because they're part of our equitable wellness initiative that is aimed to produce better health outcomes in African American and Latino communities. I love this program because at the end of the 3 sessions that you complete, you get a free box of Hungry Harvest produce. Then we also have a diabetes self-management education program, which is taught by a nurse. And this, in comparison to the other programs, is a 4-week-long program. So we have a lot of programs for you to choose from, and you can get information about each of them on our website.
So that's quite a variety of classes and programs that are available here at Holy Cross Health for assistance with diabetes and similar issues. Could you tell me, are these programs available in languages other than English?
Yes, we're happy to provide some of these programs in English and Spanish. It is really, really great to be able to connect to our communities in multiple languages. So make sure that you connect with us, send us an email, give us a phone, give us a call, and let us know what your preference is. Or if you want to organize a program like this for a community about specifically the Road to Health, please contact us and we can figure out how to bring this to your community.
Mm-hmm.
And could you tell us about cost for any of these programs?
So all the programs are free except for the DPP, the DSME, which is going to be covered by Medicare insurance.
So we mentioned a few times different ways that people can get in touch with us. It might be helpful to just give people the actual websites, holycrosshealth.org/diabetes, in which you can find lots of great information about all of the programs that we provide. So that's just a very brief overview about the Diabetes Prevention Program and other diabetes programs at Holy Cross Health. Much more to find on our website, but we have a lot to get through today. Including a great cooking demonstration at the end of our time here together. So I want to talk a little bit about diabetes itself as a condition and hopefully get some good information for people who might be interested. So let's say that you're a patient who has prediabetes or other risk factors for type 2 diabetes. We know that there are some things you can do to lower your risk of developing the disease. So what are some lifestyle changes that someone could make to delay or even prevent diabetes?
Well, it's really important to make sure that you know your lab values. I think one of the best ways is to go to your primary care doctor, get some initial labs, and know where your blood sugar numbers are falling. And then after that, these tips are really good for any people that are trying to manage their health, making sure that you're eating regularly, not skipping meals, not going long periods of time, and then overeating on certain foods that raise your blood sugar, such as simple carbohydrates. So eating regularly, and then also exercise. And we actually recommend that you exercise a little bit throughout the day rather than these big, long sessions. If you can only fit in like one bigger exercise routine, that's good too. But actually walking a little bit after each meal is shown to lower blood sugar numbers after your meals.
Absolutely. I encourage everybody to have a good relationship with their primary care provider and get checked regularly. If you don't have a healthcare provider, please call our health centers. We have an amazing team that can support you. We always tell our class participants to eat the rainbow. So try to make sure that you're eating good portions. We're trying to make sure that we don't overeat. So if you make sure that you eat half of your plate, the rainbow, make sure you have the different color vegetables. And then you can have a little bit of grains, half of the other, a quarter of the other plate grains, and your proteins in the other quarter. So it's really important that you stick to structure meal plans, and the exercise is key. If it's cold, try to exercise indoors, and also connect. Try to find a support system. In our classes, we have seen how the support from the peers is turn into a big deal into maintaining lifestyle changes. So make sure that you find your support and talk to your family. Sometimes we keep these things from our family, and we gotta trust that that communication will help us navigate this journey.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, lots of great stuff there. Lucia mentioned making a meal plan, and of course we have a demonstration here, but Julia, I think it might be a good time to transition to talking about meal plans. How do you even get started in creating one?
Yeah, I think it's really good to think about each of your meals and how to make them slightly better each day. So, if you're thinking about breakfast, think about where is your protein there? Do you have a protein? And if it's mainly like a whole grain like oatmeal, how can you add some color to that? Could you throw in some fresh blueberries? Could you have some milk on the side? Could you have a hard-boiled egg? So whatever you are starting with, try to see how you can improve it on the margin as you increase your nutrition.
And we have a few questions that came in to us from folks who registered in advance, and we're always grateful for those. So we'll try to work those in as we go along. One of those questions was, how would you recommend that I eat the right amount of carbohydrates?
I really like using my portion cups. I'm always carrying around my measuring cups, and actually they're really good as a spoon as you're scooping things out. Like if you're taking your quinoa or your bulgur like we used in our cooking demonstration, actually taking that half cup measuring cup and putting it on the quarter size of your plate. So then that way you can control where it sits on your plate. So same with any other kind of grains. I say stick to half a cup and then, fill the rest of your plate with vegetables or lower calorie foods. A cup of vegetables only has 25 calories, tons of vitamins, tons of fiber and nutrients like that are really helpful in controlling blood sugar. And then make sure you've got the lean protein to keep you feeling full. When you fill your plate with simple carbohydrates or just carbohydrates, it's going to give you energy right away, but not a sustained energy. And then you'll feel hungry before your next meal.
And be careful with packaged foods. Keep an eye on the serving sizes, because when you buy those big party size popcorn bags, the serving size might surprise how much more food we're eating than we should be.
Another question that we got that I really appreciated was, what are some tips to keep in mind when you're eating out at restaurants?
I mean, I think that I love the new American plate. Like, think about your plate, think about where you're going ahead of time. I tell people, don't put themselves in a head-to-head battle of places they know they're going to fail at. If you know that you're not going to choose like the grilled chicken with the steamed vegetables and the whole grains at a restaurant, then maybe you need to try a new restaurant so that you look at that menu ahead of time and think about healthier choices. But there are really healthy choices at many, many restaurants. If you go to like Chinese restaurants, you can get grilled chicken and vegetables. And a lot of these Chinese restaurants are even offering whole grain rice now as an alternative. I know a few in our area are even offering cauliflower rice. Yeah. And, if you go to like a Mexican restaurant, they often have a lot of like lean protein, shredded chicken breast, lettuce, tomatoes. And then, you can see the portion size. So always think about your plate when you're going out to a restaurant. How can you make those choices when you go out to eat?
And don't be afraid of taking things to go. If it doesn't fit your plate, just put it in a to-go container.
Excellent advice there. I will try to implement some of that in my own life. We mentioned carbohydrates earlier. Obviously, we're talking about diabetes, and glucose levels are a crucial part of managing diabetes. So we had someone ask a question: what's the most effective way to lower one's glucose level using nutrition?
I mean, I think it's all about the combination. People often ask me about glycemic index with certain kinds of foods, but if you're having a complex plate with the lean protein and the vegetables and the carbohydrate, you're not just filling up that plate with spaghetti and then kind of squeezing on vegetables on the side. If you're keeping your meals 3 food groups to a meal, hopefully 5 if you can do it, but the more complex you keep the meal and the more complex you keep your carbs, the better you'll control your blood sugars.
And I just want to add real quick, and it goes hand in hand. You want to make sure you stick to a healthy diet, but at the same time, you have to make sure that you're doing enough physical activity. Because the one is not enough. It has to go hand in hand.
Yeah, so I tell people if they're checking their blood sugar after meals, if they already have diabetes and they see the number is high, then to go for a 15-minute walk and then check it again. It's better than taking insulin, and exercise is like a natural insulin.
All right, lots of great information there as well. Another question come in that's I thought was quite interesting and relates to something that Lucia mentioned about making sure that you have a great support system in place. Someone asked, do you have any recommendations for eating healthfully in a house where others aren't necessarily eating the same way that you want to eat?
Yeah, this is a great question. I mean, because we don't live on a little island, our food choices are going to affect the people in our sphere, and in a good way too. And so it's important to have those conversations. If you don't want to share the health condition that you're trying to manage, then to say, it really helps me when you encourage me to try new foods. It really helps me when you say, let's take a walk. So tell people in your life how they can help, because nagging does not support, and them saying to you, should you really be eating that, is often going to make you feel discouraged. So tell them how they can help, because these people who love you do want to help.
Yes, and this is something that we also teach you in our classes, is how to turn these difficult topics into positive thinking, how to develop an action plan of small little goals that we can develop on a weekly basis. And just have that conversation with your loved ones. In the long run, this is not just a diet. This is not just for people with prediabetes or with diabetes. This is a healthy way of living that in the long run is going to be really good for everybody, children, adults, at any age.
Mhm.
I think that is a really key message for our viewers to take home with them today. Well, as I mentioned before, we have a lot to get through today, and so we have a bit of an abbreviated question and answer session up front so that we could save some time for a food demonstration. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in today and sharing your questions. So we have a special treat for you. We're going to see a healthy cooking demonstration featuring our very own registered dietitian and expert chef, Julia. Today's recipe is just in time for the season, a healthy stuffing alternative using whole grains such as quinoa, bulgur, or spelt. We'll be back after the demo to wrap things up.
And today we are going to make a fall favorite and an alternative on your traditional Thanksgiving stuffing. And as an alternative, we're going to be using this whole grain called spelt. If you haven't heard of that, maybe you've heard of a more popular quinoa. And in the recipe that we uploaded to the site, it'll say bulgur. And you can use any of these ancient grains. It really refers to grains that haven't been really processed like we've been doing more recently in history. But you can see these beautiful whole grain pellets that we're going to use today in the stuffing recipe. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about their nutrition benefits as we go through our cooking demo. And this recipe will really take only about 5 to 10 minutes to prep and about 15 to 20 minutes to fully cook. So we're going to get started. And what I like to do is, because I'm not a chef, just a dietitian who loves food, is look through my ingredient list to make sure I have everything that I need. And so you'll need some olive oil, which is a wonderful plant-based fat. You'll need some onions. I'm going to cut them up and try not to cry on you. I've got my celery already pre-cut, and my garlic is not here. See, this is why you need to have an ingredient list, but it'll still taste super wonderful. I've got my cinnamon, my allspice, I've got my whole grains. And the nice thing about this recipe is it really lists the ingredients in order of what you're going to use them. And I'm going to be using some chicken broth. If you want to make this a vegetarian option, you can use a vegetable broth. I've got my one little bay leaf I'm going to use just for that extra flavor, and some salt to taste. I've got dried cranberries, which are wonderful. You don't have to add them, and some of the later ingredients are more to your comfort. So this recipe calls for bulgur and hazelnuts, but because I'm using spelt, it really tastes wonderful with some toasted walnuts. So you can actually make some really wonderful substitutions to this recipe as you go along. So first I'm going to take my one pot kind of electric griddle here. I'm going to turn it on so I can start heating up the oil. So it calls for 1 tablespoon of olive oil. This wonderful plant-based oil is really good at lowering your cholesterol and adds a wonderful kind of nuttier flavor, savory flavor. You can use a canola oil if that's all you have at the house, but the olive oil really has more of that savory flavor. So now I'm going to chop up it calls for 3 cups of onions. You're going to want to take off this papery outer layer. Sometimes it's kind of hard just to get the outer layer of the onion off, so I just grab a single layer and pull that off with it. The onion actually, even though it's not brightly colored, has a lot of nutrition benefits as well. It has fiber in it because it's a vegetable. It doesn't have very many calories, and it will leave you feeling fuller. And actually, it's known to help reduce inflammation through some of its phytochemicals in its structure. So I took these out of the fridge. That's one way to make sure if it's nice and cold, some of those plant chemicals stay kind of cold so that you don't kind of get teary-eyed. So I like to dice them to make them small amounts. I don't know if you have small people in your family sphere, but sometimes they don't like big hunks of onion in their stuffing. So I kind of like to chop finely my onion. This recipe calls for 3 cups of onions or 2 large onions. Of course, if your family doesn't love onions, you can reduce it, but the onion flavor really does bring out that typical Thanksgiving stuffing flavor. Celery also has this wonderful flavor as well, and as it starts cooking in here, It'll smell like that normal Thanksgiving-y smell of the onions, the celery. And if you want to, you can throw in some carrots, which are high in vitamin A and beta carotene, and they will soften up as a root vegetable as well. There's a lot of wonderful things that you can throw into this to kind of add some more fiber and even more vitamins and minerals. So we're going to throw the onions in. Listen to that wonderful sound of the hot pot. I've got these onions going. Going to chop up the rest of my onions here. And as we're going along, the garlic that you would throw in at this point too, garlic is really good for reducing inflammation and fighting off infection. This time of year with the flu season coming up, it's really good to use garlic. Fresh garlic is best. If you only have dried garlic at home, you can use dried garlic, but really that fresh garlic will help lower your risk of infection with its phytochemical properties. Also, it has a wonderful flavor. Throw that garlic in there if you have it at your house. And then we're also going to throw in the spices at this point too. We have a wonderful assortment of spices in this recipe that really bring out that fall flavor that you love and have been kind of craving for a little while with this cooler weather coming along. And really we're just caramelizing the onions and softening the celery. We're also going to be throwing in the whole grain at this point because we want to toast the outer layer of it. And it calls for, let's see, 2 cups of this whole grain. And like I said, you can use this spelt, you can use bulgur, you could try to use couscous. It cooks a little bit faster and based on the ancient grain that you're using. See, the quinoa is a little bit smaller of a pellet, so this will cook up a little bit faster. So I'm just gonna toast this. You can see my eyes watering a little bit from the onions. You wanna kind of cook it at like a medium-high temperature, just toasting this flavor. So now we're gonna add our spices. Got my little rack there. And it calls for half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Make sure you use the teaspoon. We're gonna grab our ground cinnamon. And so I'm just gonna tap this. Cinnamon is wonderful for blood sugar control. It also smells great, but if you are at risk for type 2 diabetes or your blood sugar is rising, a little bit of cinnamon thrown into a lot of your meals can help prevent those post-meal spikes in your blood sugar. Got my cinnamon in there, and now it calls for allspice, and it calls for 1/4 of a teaspoon, even tinier. And when it says 1/8 of a teaspoon, what I really learned from all my cooking friends is that really means a dash. So if you don't have a 1/8 teaspoon, don't worry about that. So now we have all of our wonderful spices in there, and our spelt that we're using today is nice and toasted and coated in that cinnamon. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna add our chicken broth. I've got the chicken broth. You can use the vegetable broth if you wanna do a vegetarian version. And you can actually use water if you don't have the chicken broth at home. So I'm gonna leave this to cook for a little bit and turn it up just so it'll boil and start to absorb that liquid. And now we're gonna move on to the next step, which is the dried cranberries. So grab your dried cranberries, and we're gonna take 2/3 of a cup. Usually they don't make it 2/3 of a cup, so I'm gonna take 1/2 a cup and add it to my empty container here, and another 1/3 of a cup. Now in the recipe, it says that you're gonna microwave it. We actually don't have a microwave here. So really what that does is it just softens the cranberries, but if you don't have access to a microwave, you can just throw it all in this one pot and it'll cook down just as good. So I'm going to throw in my cranberries and my 1/4 of a cup of orange juice. And if you put it in the microwave, it'll just soften the cranberries a little bit, bring out the flavor of the cranberries. These wonderful cranberries are really high in fiber. They'll add like a sweetness and a savoriness to the dish. And so we're going to throw them in to our recipe here. They would just plump a little bit more in a microwave, bring out that flavor a little bit more. And in a separate step, you are adding the pecans or your walnuts. Like I'm going to use the walnuts in this recipe. In the recipe that you have with the bulgur, it calls for hazelnuts. And what you want to do is you want to take your walnuts or hazelnuts and you want to toast them on a separate pan. And it calls for 2/3 of a cup. So I'm going to do the same kind of thing that I did with the cranberries. I'm going to take, 1/2 a cup and add another 1/4 of a cup just to make sure I get enough. And you would toast these over a griddle or a separate fry pan, and that would just bring out the flavor. You'd have the smells coming up, but really today we can just throw it all into one pot and it'll taste just as good. Keep it simple if you need to. So you can see all the whole grains, all the plant fats are really a great and healthier alternative to your traditional stuffing with your more processed bread ingredients. It's going to take about 15 to 20 minutes. This whole grain is going to take closer to the 20-minute mark. If you had the quinoa with the smaller pellets, it would take closer to 10 to 15 minutes to fully absorb the liquid. Whole grain has absorbed all the liquid. I like to actually scoop out with the 1/2 cup serving just so that you make sure that you hold yourself accountable to the serving size of your grain. And you can serve it in cute little bowls, or you can actually serve it in a green or red or yellow pepper and then garnish it a little bit with the parsley. So thank you so much. And I hope that you have a wonderful, happy fall and a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much, Julia, for that wonderful cooking demonstration. It looked delicious and, of course, very healthy. I hope people found it to be useful. We did get a few questions in while we were doing the cooking demo, so I wanted to address those before we wrapped up today. One question was, do you have a gestational diabetes program at Holy Cross?
Actually, that's a great question. Because gestational management is so patient-specific, I would direct you just to give me a call in the outpatient nutrition department, and I think we're going to provide that link to my website on our chat.
And another question that we got was, how many times per day should someone with diabetes check their glucose?
And thank you for that question. That question is also very specific to each person. So we, for that one, recommend you to speak directly to your primary care provider. In case you don't have one, please get in touch with one of our health centers. We will be happy to help you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And related to what Julia just mentioned about giving her a call, we had some folks express interest in getting in touch with our outpatient nutrition services. So, Julia, if someone is interested in making an appointment with a registered dietitian in an outpatient setting, how can someone go about doing that?
Well, my website actually has all of the insurance companies that Holy Cross accepts, which is wonderful because oftentimes, outpatient dietitians aren't able to accept insurance, but Holy Cross has made it so that I take probably like 7 or 8 insurance companies. So look at my website. It even has a guide to inquiring about insurance questions, so you can call your insurance and see if there's any out-of-pocket expenses, as well as my phone number, my email, and another fun cooking demonstration on there too.
And Julia's website can be reached via holycrosshealth.org/diabetes. We have a link there to her site and lots of great information as well.
I just wanted to add one quick thing. If you're struggling to purchase food and you need some resources, please make sure you do call 311. The Montgomery County Food Council has developed a resource directory where you can get food, and they will give you specific locations where you can pick up produce for free.
Excellent point. I'm very glad that you mentioned that for us. So, we hope that you enjoyed today's Facebook Live discussion and cooking demonstration. If we didn't get to your question, we can provide additional information through our blog, or we can connect with you one-on-one via our diabetes services channels such as phone or, of course, our website. So if you would like to connect with us to learn more about our diabetes prevention program or other educational programs that we've talked about today, you can call 301-557-1231 or, of course, visit the website holycrosshealth.org/diabetes. So thank you for joining us today on Facebook Live with Holy Cross Health, and we hope to see you again soon.